He's TNA's first Grand Slam champion and is considered by wrestling purists around the world as one of the greatest grapplers of the modern era. This Sunday in the US, he will be challenging current TNA World Champion Jeff Jarrett at Hard Justice, live on pay-per-view, in a match that is sure to be truly phenomenal. NZPWI was lucky enough to interview TNA superstar AJ Styles just days before his world title match.
AJ Styles, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Just over a week ago, you had a new arrival in your household. What's it like being a dad?
I tell you what, it's probably the most unbelievable experience that I'll ever have in my life. Nothing will ever compare to my son's birth, other than maybe a brother and sister, later on in the future. It's just awesome. Now that's phenomenal, really.
So you're planning to have quite a large family?
Maybe about two more.
It's very
Not
nice.
too big.
Well, about 3 days out from Hard Justice, where you will be taking on Jeff Jarrett, what's your thoughts leading into the match? And do you change your training routines or regimen at all as you get closer to these big events?
I don't know about changing the way I train. The only thing I think that Jeff Jarrett has over me is the fact that he's had more matches. He's been there and done that a lot more than I have. He has experience. So if that's the only thing he has on me, well, it's time to step up to the plate and hit a home run. Because Jeff Jarrett, him and I've wrestled before. This isn't the first time, and it won't be the first time that Jeff Jarrett has lost to AJ Styles. And that's exactly what I think he's going to do. I think my work ethic is second to none. So we'll just see what happens.
Tito Ortiz is going to be the special guest referee in your match, and he's quite a tough guy, and if anyone can keep Jarrett in line, it's him. What influence do you think he'll have on the match or its outcome?
Well, if you've ever watched any matches Jeff Jarrett has been in, especially the world title matches, you saw him get the guitar and whatever he can get his hands on to make sure that he wins the match. Well, Tito's going to make sure none of that crap happens, and, hey, I'm glad he's a ref. I'm glad he's going to be the authority as a ref should be in these particular matches.
You've won the TNA World title, the tag titles, and the X Division title. Which belt meant the most to you and why?
They all mean a lot to me. The X Division title, of course, is a big belt to me because it was the first belt that I won in TNA. I think that the X Division separates us from everyone else because we have some of the best athletes, wrestlers, whatever. These guys are unbelievable. So the X Division title definitely is something big in the part of AJ Styles. But the tag team titles are also big because these are the same tag titles that all the older guys have won. These are old titles. And when we're talking about the world titles, you're talking about Booth Bez, Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair. You're talking about the title that all the great ones have had. And to have that, it doesn't really compare to some of the other belts, But don't get me wrong, they still mean a lot.
Speaking about that wrestling history and the prestige behind the belt, a few years back we interviewed JBL and asked him why Texas was such a great state for wrestling. The same question to you. Georgia is one of the centers of wrestling in America. Why do you think it's really cemented its place as one of the places for pro wrestling over the past century?
You know what? That is a question that I can't answer. As growing up, I wasn't the biggest fan of professional wrestling just because I wasn't able to watch it. So that's a hard question for me to answer.
Why weren't you able to watch it when you were growing up?
Well, unfortunately, I didn't have the money so that I could have cable television. I had a little antenna that we had to twirl around and try to pick up stations when we could. So I wasn't able to watch that much just because of the simple fact that I was poor. So, what do you do?
This is the first pay-per-view since the tragic death of Chris Candido. Have the boys got anything special planned as a tribute, and do you have a few words for any of his fans who might be listening?
I don't know if they have anything planned. I'd say that this whole pay-per-view is a tribute to Chris. His joy to have around the locker room, and he's certainly going to be missed, and certainly going to be missed by me. He was a good friend, and at least I can look back and know the last thing that I've done or said to Chris is that I just gave him a hug when he broke his ankle. I just gave him a hug and, told him he's going to be all right. It's not a big deal, and that was it. Luckily, I got the opportunity to give him a hug before his death, which is really tragic.
The US cruiserweight wrestling in the X Division seems to be undergoing a split at the moment, where guys like Jack Evans are really pushing the acrobatic boundary as far as possible, while guys like you and Christopher Daniels, in spite of being able to pull off moves like the spiral tap, seem to be focusing more on making slightly older moves as crisp as possible. Would you agree with that? And if so, is it a conscious decision that you made?
Well, I mean, I think that wrestling, in particular, the X Division, isn't just about high flying. I mean, it's about guys being able to do crazy moves and them not being flying moves. Like you talk about crazy. How about Petey Williams' Canadian Destroyer? I mean, you'll never see that anywhere else. It's crazy, and that's part of being extreme. You know, doing extreme moves like that. So I would say a all-around wrestler is better off than a guy who can just flip. And don't get me wrong, Jack's definitely coming in, you know, on as a top guy and doing crazy flips like that. I just hope he doesn't get hurt. But and don't get me wrong, that's exactly the way I used to be. You know, the crazier flips I could pull off, the better off I thought I was going to be. But that's not the case anymore. I think the all-around wrestler is definitely the one that people want to watch.
Speaking of getting injured in the ring, there was an incident a few months ago where you landed the Stars Clash on Frankie Kazarian, and the move didn't go as well as it could have. Was it easy to get back in? Sorry, go on.
It's you know what? If there's a knockout move, that is definitely it. When someone tucks their head, it can break your neck. I mean, it can be a real serious injury. I know a kid tried to pull off the Styles Clash in the Independence over here on another kid, and it actually broke his neck. So it's definitely can be a serious move, but it doesn't have to be. It can be a safe one if you want it to be. You know, it just, you know, people doing the wrong things. You know, it's just a freak accident that kind of happened. You know, and Frankie will never let it happen again, I'm sure.
So you didn't have any hesitation about using the move the next time?
Oh no, not at all. I mean, this is it's almost like a stunner. You'd be surprised how people can get hurt on the stunner just because they took it wrong, you know. And it's the same thing with the Styles Clash. It's a safe move if they take it right, you know. It's not that hard to figure out, but somehow they manage a way to hurt themselves.
Popular opinion is placing Matt Hardy as possibly coming to TNA when his no compete clause expires. As someone who's really responsible for initiating his brother Jeff into TNA, what's your thoughts about the possibility of Matt coming to join his brother and what role you might play in that?
Well, I don't know exactly what role he'll play, but I definitely hope that he gets here because it's going to be something awesome. I'd love to see Matt and Jeff back together. And he's a big part of wrestling. I can't believe they let him go. I can't believe it. It still baffles me. But I'm glad they did. We'll pick him up and we'll go take him, you know, to another level if he wants to go. I mean, it can definitely help our company. We'd love to help him out too.
You wrestle around the world. I know you went over to Ireland. Some of our contacts over there, you wrestle with Irish Whip Wrestling against Christopher Daniels. Do you notice any difference going from the six-sided impact ring to the old squared circle, and which do you prefer now?
Well, you know, it's not that I just wrestle in six sides, you know, on the weekends and whatnot. I still wrestle in the four sides, you know, and it doesn't bother me. I mean, you can't forget how much you've been around the squared circle rather than the hexagon. I mean, it's not that big of a difference. It doesn't bother me that much. It's I don't know. I love I got to be honest with you though. I do love the six-sided ring probably more so than the squared ring.
Are the ropes tighter to when you're running the ropes? Is there any other major differences you find, or?
No, pretty much just the ropes. I mean, the turnbuckles are closer together, therefore the ropes are going to be a little bit tighter. You can definitely get lost in the ring. You got to shoot a guy in the turnbuckle and he's in the ropes, and the ropes are in the turnbuckle. You know, either way, he's like, you got to get used to it. You got to know what you're doing in there. You got to get in the ring and play around before you just jump in there and wrestle because you get lost.
You're certainly being built as one of the guys for TNA, and certainly considered as one of the most innovative wrestlers in the world today. Do you feel any pressure from this?
Pressure? No. You know, for me, I think I work well under pressure, and I don't consider myself one of the best. You know, I want to be. I keep striving to be that. You know, but yeah, I don't consider myself the best. I think Christopher Daniels and like Kristen Wong, those guys are the best. I want to be like those guys. I want to take it to another level like those guys do, and able to just get in there and have a great match every time people are watching.
You're a very strong Christian, AJ. What do you think it is about the world of professional wrestling that leads many of its people to find Christ and be born again?
Well, you know, there's not that many people that, I mean, there's been a couple, like Ted DiBiase and Sting, Vince Russo. You know what? Maybe it's because they've lived such a hard life, and this wrestling business is a hard that when it comes right down to it, when they hit the bottom, they realize, what's important, and it's not wrestling. It's, where are you going to be? What's going to happen when you die? And Jesus Christ, man, there's nothing else like that. And, even if these guys have had a kid, and they got to know how precious life is, and how that only God can do something like this. Only God can make something as beautiful as a baby. So I don't know exactly why. Maybe that's the reason. It's just so hard in this wrestling business to stay pure and stay, out of trouble. That finally get out of it, it's easy to look up and go, man, what am I doing here? And realize what's more important.
Okay. I know you've said in the past that you don't really watch many other wrestling feds on TV, but have you had the chance to see Christian from the WWE, his entrance to the ring recently? There's some obvious similarities there, sort of with the hooded jacket and stuff. How do you feel when you see people in indies and in other feds borrowing pieces of your moveset, of your style, of your approach? How do you feel? Is it a tribute or a rip-off? How do you feel about that?
A little of both. I mean, these are guys that, at first I get a little angry with them because I think, well, gosh, you can't do it yourself, so you depend on me to make sure you look good. But then again, you got to do what you got to do to stay in wrestling, to keep people looking at you. I have seen Christian with the hood and everything like that. I don't know about the movesets or whatever, but, what am I going to do? There's nothing I can do about it, so I'll keep doing my thing and let people keep copying me, and I'll take it as a compliment.
Running quickly through your moves, we've got the, if you just give me a few words on each of them, you've got the Styles Clash. You came up with that on the trampoline with your brother-in-law, I understand, a couple of years back.
Yeah, they were trying to powerbomb, him and his friends trying to powerbomb each other, and, well, they just couldn't pick each other up, so they just dangled upside down in front of them while the other guy had his legs. And it just popped to my head, and I walked over there, and he was the first one to take it.
Is your brother-in-law going to enter the ranks of wrestling?
Oh, he better not. He better not. He's too young, and hopefully he's smart enough not to do something like that.
Okay, then we've got the Pele kick, that awesome backflip enziguri.
I've seen it done before. I can't exactly say I made that one up. I just try to put my own little twist on it and stuff like that, just like everything else, to make it my own. But I can't take full credit for that one.
All those moves we might see in action against Gerald, of course, at Hard Justice. We've got that beautiful backflip DDT you do.
Yep, that one I've seen Dragon Kid do something similar, and then, again, I put my own little twist on it and make it my own. I mean, these are, some moves that I come up with my own, some moves, there's hardly no new moves, so you have to tweak them a little bit to get the reaction you want out of them.
And finally, of course, that beautiful shooting stars press of yours, AJ. Christopher Daniels calls his moonsault the best moonsault ever. Would you call yours the best shooting star press ever? And if not, who do you reckon in the world today has the best?
I gotta say, maybe the one I do to the outside, the shooting styles press, maybe. But as far as inside the ring, Paul London's got me beat by a long shot.
Excellent.
We all know that. It's beautiful. Can't deny that.
Finally, we were lucky enough to have guys like Chris Sabin and Frankie Kazarian come down here for a tour with the WWA a few years ago. Is there any chance we'll see the phenomenal one in New Zealand any time in the future?
Well, you never know, man. I mean, I don't have anything, I guess, booked at the moment, but then again, I don't even know what I'm doing next week. So I'd say it's quite possible. I mean, I've been everywhere else in the world. I don't see why not there.
Okay, well, look, AJ, thank you so much. Just on behalf of all the fans in New Zealand who will be listening to this interview, thank you so much for entertaining and providing such a spectacle in the ring every time you go out there. You've got a huge base of fans down here on the other side of the world, and the best of luck this Sunday at Hard Justice.
Thank you. Maybe we'll be talking to a world champion. Who knows?
AJ, thank you so much for your time.
Okay, pal.